The 11 Bang Bang Reload Show starts now.
Hello, everybody. We are back. We are short one person, but he should be here pretty soon, and that's Duke. I'm Garrett. This is the 11 Bang Bang Reload Show. Down here on the bottom, we have co-host Snapper, and over here on my right, we have Dustin from Guns of the West, who's not really a stranger to this show. He's been on here quite a few times, but we never had a chance just to visit with just Dustin, so that's what we're doing tonight. I appreciate him coming on. So, Dustin, you want to tell everybody kind of what you do and how you got into this black powder firearms thing? And you run a pretty big channel there, Guns of the West. How did you get started with that?
Well, I've always had a passion for the Old West, especially. And of course, I'm a firearm instructor by trade, have been for many years, traveled all over the U.S., Alaska to Virginia doing that. But I love the old-fashioned guns the most, for sure. And so I started a YouTube channel. I forget what year it was. It was early on, like 2011 or 12, maybe even before that. And it was more if you look at my early videos, it's like modern guns, like the ones I work with for teaching concealed carry and things like that. And it didn't really take off, and I wasn't really passionate. I'm passionate about the teaching, but I wasn't really getting into those videos. But when I decided, well, why don't I do videos on what I'm passionate about, which are the Old West stuff, I guess people could tell I liked those better because there was a better response and I was getting some subscribers and things. So I just rolled with that. And I've been doing that for, 5 or 6 years, pretty steadily, trickling before that. And then a few years ago in 2020, launched a business off of it too, the Guns of the West store with the paper cartridge formers and the paper cartridge kits. I'm not saying a paper cartridge former was new. They go back to the 1860s or so. But the complete paper cartridge kit was my idea. And so that was kind of a fun thing to introduce where people could get a whole complete set to make their paper cartridges for the first time. And it's been very, very popular. I've been humbled by that, by the support and the continued support of the channel. And here we are, being invited on places like the 11 Bang Bang show.
Well, I'll tell you what, you single-handedly brought back cigarette rolling paper.
Right. For a time, I actually don't use it anymore, and I don't include it. I use a different paper now. But yeah, cigarette paper will still work.
Yeah.
What kind of paper do you use now, Dustin?
I don't even know what it's called. I found it in a craft store. I was just looking for something similar to cigarette paper. But with the issue that I was worried about, it never came up that anybody young wanted to buy my kits or anything. But if somebody were to, we could have an issue with tobacco products and stuff like that. And so I just had to get creative and start looking at some other papers. And like I said, I don't even know what this stuff is called, but it's very similar to cigarette paper without being called such.
Okay, cool. I've always used like a coffee filter paper, and I tried it, and it's always worked great for me. And I also use the cigarette paper from your kit as well. But I didn't even know you changed it up. So cool.
Yeah, I changed it up. It was fairly early on. It was in the first year of the business.
Oh, so the stuff I probably have is the newer stuff then.
Oh, it might be the new stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So anybody who's just joining in, Duke is here now. He's under the cowboy picture. Can you hear us, Duke?
Yeah,
Your audio
I'm here.
Okay. It sounds good. So you guys all know Duke Frazier Productions, and Snapper, I forgot to mention, is from Snapper's Antique Firearms Unlimited. And so let's kind of go through who all we got here, because we got a lot of people in the chat. We got Greg Pilgrim, Diane Houston, and we got Stephen M. Mann, Louisiana Gray is in. Let's see. Sorry, we got Joe Ardledge. Iron Wings is in. Franklin Horst. Iron Wings said, hello, gentlemen. Love your videos, Dustin. Had some issues with my paper cartridges leaving unburnt powder in a 51 cylinder. Any tips?
Well, as Snapper said, one tip is to nitrate. The paper that I'm using now, and I've never nitrated the paper. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, and it's probably a more complete burn, but with the paper I'm using now in my kits, I get very, very little leftover paper, and it's small enough amount that, to be honest, between cylinders, I let it cool for, maybe not even quite a minute, but just make sure there's nothing smoldering in there if there might be paper. And then I'll just load the next cartridge right on top of that because it's so little that it's not affecting the ignition of the next one. So it's not something you really need to clean out after every load. But maybe after every 3 or 4 cylinders, I'll take a toothpick and just feel around and see if there's any in there. But it's never enough that it's any kind of an issue at all. And then when you clean the gun, of course, everything runs right out.
Yeah. That's what I was about to say. I don't usually notice it until about the 4th or 5th cylinder, and then maybe you'll get a failure. But
or
we
when
have
it's in the ultrasonic cleaner, and all of a sudden you have paper float up to the surface of the water.
Oh yeah.
yeah. We have Garza Vlogs is in. Turkey Creek 1823 is in. He just put out a video, guys, so I'll click on that. You guys haven't checked him out, go check out the channel Turkey Creek 1823. He's got some good videos over there. Texacan 1836 is in. Mill Creek Range. Landon Simpson says howdy. Franklin Horse said straw wrappers burn the same as cigarette papers. I never thought of that. Straw wrappers, like the
I
ones
never
you get
thought
at
of that
McDonald's?
either.
Yeah.
Well, you know what's funny on Dustin's cartridge formers is that I've got this box here, or this package here, that he sent me in 2020 that I've never opened.
You haven't even opened it?
I mean, I'm going to open it right now.
All right.
Well, he used to tell me his fingers wouldn't work for rolling paper cartridges, but they ought to be limbered up with all that leather he's been selling the last few years.
No, they just keep getting worse. No, I can't do a paper cartridge. I crush them, and then I get mad, and I throw them, and they just don't work.
Yeah. So we got Soylent Green, old one guy, Kerry Stottlemyre.
Oh, hey, I got all.
And we got Everything Black Powder's in. He says howdy.
Oh, hey, everything
Howdy.
black powder?
By Landon C. AR Americans here.
Hey, AR.
Get through it, guys. Jason 60 Chev. And Steven Sheets
Steven
says
Sheets.
hello. And that's everybody. And we already have 60 people in here. So that's pretty good.
Cool. A lot of names I recognize from comments.
Mm-hmm. We have pretty good base here.
Yeah, we do.
I just saw that Everything Black Powder did just put out a video on Blackie's gun butter. The stuff works pretty good. So we were just talking about this. I have a question for Dustin and Duke, seeing as Dustin is our special guest here. You two really kicked off a lot of the – I know Mike Bellevue was here and everything before you guys, but you two really kicked off the live chats and the with Duke, and you kicked off a lot of the what we consider the cap and ball Western channels, you know. So how did you two get acquainted?
One of us started commenting on the other one's channels.
I was probably commenting on yours. I remember watching you a lot, Duke,
Right.
early on. And I think I met you basically the same way I met Santee from Arizona Ghost Riders. I think we were commenting on each other's stuff, which led us to subscribe to each other eventually. And,
Right.
you invited me on a live stream. To this day, I've only done one live stream, and I need to be better. I always say I'm going to start doing live streams, and I am, but I've done one to date.
I remember it was pretty good. You kicked off with 80 people in that live stream like instantly. I remember when you did it. I was watching. I was in the comment section.
Yeah, it was. That's another thing that just surprised me. It was holding right around 100 for a lot of the time that we were on, and that's just the whole thing about the Guns of the West channel. It's all been a surprise. When every once in a while, like my in-laws ask me, how many subscribers your channel have, and like the other day it hit 60,000, and like I would say, that's 60,000 more than I thought I was going to have.
Exactly. Well, you deserve it because you can always tell who's going to grow because your videos have always been very high quality and you're very well spoken. And I realize that's because not that I'm going to give anything away, but in your day job, you do a lot of public speaking, don't you? And
Yeah,
that carries over. Because like me, I have to edit a lot because I don't know how to talk.
Well, you sound good.
Can really,
Me too.
you really carry well, and I always thought that's one of the reasons you're very well spoken on your videos.
Well, I hope I think your videos sound really good too. And if it makes you feel better, there is plenty of reshooting and cussing in every single video.
Oh my goodness!
Well, at least we're not the only awkward ones in, at least, Garrett.
Yeah. By Landon C said, Dustin, your videos and kit are what got me started in cap and ball pistols, even though my first pistol purchase was a Uberti Walker, LOL.
Well, thank you for that. I always love hearing things like that my videos might have got somebody interested in this. I love that. So thank you.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you the truth. I would have never shot paper cartridges if it wasn't because to me it always looked like such a hassle to make. And then your kit came along and it wasn't a hassle at all. First few were a little rough, but they got better after that.
Even with the kit, there's a little learning curve.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
It's not bad though. So Snapper, you got anything for Dustin?
Oh, well, one of the things that I love about the kit itself is the fact that you used modern technology that's simple and put it into it. I actually like that being 3D printed. It's much more down to earth, simple, easy, and it keeps the kit affordable to the everyday person.
Yeah, that's what we try to do. And we have a new printer now. For a while, I was using not necessarily, cheap printers, but more entry level. And they did a good job, but it was slow. And I got a new one in December, and it's putting out some excellent cartridge formers and
Nice.
stuff. So I'm always happy to see that the quality just goes up with that better technology coming out.
That little so I had purchased the ammunition boxes. The first ones, the wooden ones first, and you sent me those new plastic ones. Those new plastic ones, I absolutely love those things.
Oh, good.
At first I was like, I don't know, I would see myself using this much, but if I go out on a hike or just go anywhere with the gun, it is the only thing that I found that I actually like carrying now. Because before, if you had paper cartridges, it was a pain. Yeah, it was worried of breaking them or putting them in a big box. But having that little, 6 loads with the caps and everything that could fit in that little spot, just throwing that and sticking it in your pocket, you ain't got to worry about it. Yeah, I really like those far more than I thought I would.
Well, thank you. And that's one of those things where, I used to carry my paper cartridges in like a modern ammo box, a plastic one for, I'd get a 45 Colt or something smaller, or like 38 if it was like for a 36. But they don't fit just right. And so if you're not really careful with that, they rattle too much. They can break the paper. Right. And I guess that can happen with anything. But these are made for paper cartridges.
Yeah, I absolutely like them a lot. They're at first I was like, I don't see me using these much. But, man, I tell you what, because the first ones I bought just go in a display case. And but those other ones, man, I actually like them far more than I ever thought I would. I haven't broke a single paper cartridge using them yet.
Yeah, me neither.
They're great. I love them.
And if I can give a shout out to Richard Bentoski from the channel Small Caliber Arms Review, he actually makes the wooden ones. I make the plastic ones, the ones that hold the caps and everything. But on my website, we kept talking about this. I haven't named it yet. If anybody's interested, gunsoftheweststore.com is where all this
I'm sorry. I should have said that.
Okay, I should have said it too. I totally forgot to. I always talk like everybody knows what I'm talking about when I didn't say it. So yeah, gunsoftheweststore.com. But anyway, Richard makes those wooden ones. He does a fantastic job and has more patience than me, I think. And then I do the plastic ones.
And one more question for you. Would you ever consider making a kit to do skin cartridges?
Yes. To be totally honest, I have no experience with skin cartridges, so there would be a little bit for me to learn. But I would be happy to do that and be more than happy to develop product for it.
That would be amazing. I want to get into that myself. And I know there's a book out there. I saw Mark Hubbs do it on his channel, and I've been really interested in that myself.
Yeah. I've often wondered if the collagen you use for a sausage stuffer for jerky, if that would work for the skin.
I don't. That's kind of what I think they use. I'm not sure.
I think it is. I'm not sure.
Of something they use.
I'm not sure. Soylent Green's here. He said, hopefully the high fructose bandits don't show up and ruin the show. I saw them. They
don't even mention them. You have no idea. People think it's a joke. They are terrifying. You don't want to meet the high fructose gang.
Yes, but you did them in the other day when you was Rooster Cogburn.
Yeah, that was actually a long time ago. That was just a short that I made. I kind of to promote the full video. Yeah, that was I did a video with my daughter a while back about the Uberti 3rd Model Dragoon, and that was just kind of a clip from toward the end of that video. And so I just kind of took it, cropped it, and made a short out of it just for fun.
Yeah, it was
the Dr. Pepper.
Dr. Pepper, played by Santee himself.
Yep. Well, I remember when you and Santee did that crossover where, what was it? Santee sent Bill over to you through I can't remember how that went, but it was a good episode. I remember that.
We used to do that a lot more often than we do now. Bill's been on my channel several times.
Yeah.
And then I've been on on Santee's channel several times. And one time it was really fun. We were at, I forget what it's called now, but at the time it was Harker's Old West Museum. And we were doing some cowboy fast draw shooting with the wax bullets and stuff. And we had a little clip where Dirty Dan and I both took a punch simultaneously from Bill. That's a lot of fun playing with all that green screen stuff.
Yeah. Angelica Woods is in, and so is Gina Woods. Let's see, guys. I'm going to get down here. I'm scrolling through to see if you guys have any questions. Okay. Landon Simpson said, Dustin introduced me to the Lee loader. That's what I used to reload 45 Colt. So I really appreciate that. God bless you. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Just don't crimp the cartridges too hard. I got some way crazy velocities in 45 Colt doing that.
Well, you used to always I like your videos, but you've your 45 Colt loads look like they've evolved over the years. Do you still put all the cards and everything, or are you basically
No, the more I guess I'm always kind of trying to just find the easier, lazier way to do things. I think that's how the paper cartridge kit came out, because I was having a hard time making them the old way, so I just so I like easy. So we make easy ways to do things. And so I used to use the cards and everything, and while it did do a better job, in my opinion, of leaving a better amount of lube in the bore and keeping the fouling softer with that black powder, it was so much more work. And that video is actually not on YouTube anymore. They decided it was too dangerous and took it down. But the way I do it now is I'll just take the bullets. If they have lube in them already for modern, I'll just warm them with a hair dryer. It doesn't take much, and that runs right out. And then I replace it with mine, and then just load that right onto powder.
Yeah, you're using that same lube you use in your kits then for your 45 Colt?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll dip them. Other times I'll just take it on my finger and just smear it. It kind of depends on how many I'm doing at a time.
Yep.
You know, that's one thing that's frustrating about YouTube. You think it would be smarter and safer to teach people to do it the right way, show them how to do it, and just let them guess. Say, oh, I can't show anybody how to do it. Just guess. Here, make your own load up.
That's always been, my beef too, is why not let there be good, safe instruction on something rather than just have people playing with an explosive without knowing what they're doing.
Yeah, I
exactly. Exactly. Duke, let's give this question out to you. He says, Justin Gross said, is it just me or does the 51 Navy shoot high? If so, are there any market front sights? Go, Duke.
All Colts shoot high, but for whatever reason, my 51 Navy with that air's gone, the Colt cartridge works 36, shoots right at point aim. So
I don't know. That sounds like a defect.
My 61 Navy with a round ball shoots a little low.
Really?
So, yeah, it really depends on the gun, but typically they shoot high.
That's a 61 Navy has a blade front sight.
It has a taller.
That still surprises me. It's not that tall, really, to put it low.
Blackie Thomas has a really good video on that.
That's what I was about to say.
On the back of your rear sight, you can make that notch deeper, and the deeper you make that notch, you'll lower that from shooting high. You're basically lowering the nose of the gun down by doing that.
But if you're wondering about historically, yes, they always shot high. It was aimed for the belt buckle, hit them in the chest, or shoot. Or for like the 1860 Army, it was not beyond it to be able to shoot 100 yards, just because that's where it starts to flatten out at about 75. So, yeah, I hope that answered your question. But yeah,
like you said, those Colts, they all shoot high. I have my Walker, when I shoot at normal, like handgun distance, I'm probably hitting about a foot to a foot and a half high with my Walker. And I have people comment, maybe this is something we can talk about, but I have people comment on my videos all the time, and they tell me, no, the reason your Walker shoots high is because they were sighted in for 100 yards. Now, maybe they were, but I don't think 100 yards is going to solve the problem, because I did an experiment out at the range one day, and they normally don't allow handguns on their 75-yard range. They don't at all on the 100-yard range. But I was at 25 yards. It's shooting about a foot to a foot and a half high. At least mine is. Out at 50, it was a little higher than that. And all the way out to 75, it was so high, it couldn't even touch the target back.
It's still arcing.
Yeah, it's still going high at 75. So I don't think it's going to be on at 100. At least not these repros.
Yeah.
I've always been told the way they shot was different. Like, everything wasn't like we shoot now, center mass. It was belt buckle. And then that would accommodate for a larger range of distances on a human target.
Yeah.
I've never even attempted to take one out past 100. I've only shot at 75, but I know how my abilities at 75. I'm not even going to worry about trying 100.
Right.
I know
one of these days,
Walker at 100, so it was shooting about 6 inches high.
one of these days, I do plan to do a video on the Walker at 100 yards, but it's going to have to be done out in the desert, and I'm going to have to get up really early in the morning because it's hard to find 100-yard space without other shooters around where I can do that. And the range won't let me shoot the handgun at 100 yards. But one of these days, there will be a video on the Guns of the West channel testing out the Uberti Walker at 100.
My Colt Dragoon, it's a hazard to low-flying aircraft that shoots so high. It's fast.
I would say that my opinion on it is that it's kind of the Walker power gets a little overblown. And I honestly think that light bullet at 100 yards, you're going to be, even if you hit somebody at 100 yards, you're going to be way down there in the 380. I don't know what the foot-pounds would be. I should test that out, but I bet you it's not that good. I always hear people tell me, the Walker's designed to kill a horse at 100 yards. And I'm like, I've never read that ever anywhere. I mean, yeah, I can kill a horse, but it's basically the same ballistics as a snub-nosed 357 Magnum. And a horse is like an elk or a moose. You don't see people hunting moose or elk with a snub-nosed 357 Magnum.
No.
It's powerful.
Yards, certainly.
Yeah, it's powerful, but it's not what some people kind of make it out to be sometimes.
Didn't they do like to talk about how the Walker was the most powerful handgun and everything, and for a time maybe it was, but what was it up against? I mean, the guns were a lot less powerful back then than they are today. And it's funny you mentioned the 357 Magnum because that's something that gets said so much that it's almost cliche. When you hear everybody repeat that line, it was the most powerful handgun until the 357 Magnum. Last weekend I filmed a video. It hasn't come out yet. But I did a chronograph test, foot-pounds against foot-pounds, Walker versus 357 Magnum. So that's coming out.
357 probably smoked her pretty good, would be my guess.
The 357, and I had to buy a 357 for that video because I didn't have one anymore. I had one a long time ago, but I sold it, and it was only a 2-inch barrel anyway, and I didn't want to test with that. Yeah, I got me a 6.5-inch Taurus, and it turned out to be a sweet gun. It's going to have videos of its own. But yeah, I took it out and did that chronograph test, and it did smoke the Walker pretty good.
I was sure it would. Here's the other thing. You can load 60 grains in a round ball, but that round ball only weighs, what, is it 180 grains?
I think it's only like 100.
No, not even 180 grains. It's,
140.
140.
So, in reality, can you get it, when they really loaded that back in the day, they loaded it with conicals. You can't get 60 grains in that big. What is it? I call it the sugar loaf. I think Duke calls it. What do you call it? The picket.
That one was the picket conical. The sugar loaf came out after the fact.
You can get about 45 in there. So and that one weighs 218, I believe. Right, Duke?
It's in that ballpark, closer to 200. And there's speculation because it was a cone of lead. There's no sugar. It was just a cone of lead. You may be able to cram 60 grains if you loaded the bullet backwards. And being that conicals were pretty new at that time, those troops did not get, they was all Texas Rangers. They call them Texas Mounted Volunteers, but they got no training on that Walker. There was no manual that come with it. And, they probably loaded them backwards, and that's one of the reasons why cylinders popped.
Wait a minute. Are you saying that when they got their Walkers, it didn't come with a manual and a cable lock?
No.
And a warranty registration card.
And black powder only, right on the side of the
barrel. On the side of it, yeah.
Do not put smokeless powder that doesn't exist into this.
Dustin, we've been talking. Sorry. Go ahead, Duke. Sorry, I didn't hear.
You got to say the claim that the Walker's most powerful handgun up until the 357. Take out, the 58 caliber Aston pistol that was issued to the Dragoons at the exact same time, and shoot that and compare it to a Walker. I guarantee you the Aston is going to have a heck of a lot more energy. It does a heck of a lot more damage than that little bitty 44 caliber Walker.
Well, here's the thing. You can get about, and he said loading it backwards, but I know for a fact that loading it correctly with that original conical bullet, you can get about 45 grains in with that one. And it's around 218. Now, today, of course, they've got out the, the 45-55 Walker. The guys on the channels have been working on. I know that Stephen M. Mann's been and that's a little different. But historically, think about what your 7.5-inch Colt single action Army could shoot. You can load 40 grains in there and a 255 grain bullet in a 7.5-inch barrel. I honestly think that foot pounds, that 45 long Colt in the original Army handgun with a 40 grain load is going to be very close to Walker power in foot pounds because you got a heavier bullet.
Especially if you make the loads in a Lee loader and crimp too much.
You get a lot of pressure, huh? I better get over here and get some of these comments here. Let's see. Gray Pilgrim said I have the book on skin cartridge. Blackie mentioned it. I ordered it that day. Talking about formers. Justin Gross said, thanks, AR. Okay, he's talking to AR American. Sorry, guys. I'm going through here looking for questions. Let's see here. There's one. It's not a question, but Iron Wing said Dustin's channel, funnily enough, was what made my decision to finally pick up my Renegade. Been all downhill since. Just got my Taylor 1873 to the range today. Ooh, good job. Yeah, Noah's in. Rod's vintage side-by-side channel's in. Said evening, folks. Let's see here. Rolling through these. By the way, guys, we got 80 people. So we're doing pretty good. James Singer said you can use the sausage casings for skin cartridges. That's kind of what I was wondering. Scroll on through here a little bit. Okay, here's one right here. Make sure I didn't miss any others. All right, by Land and C said, Dustin, what is your impression of the curse converter so far?
Love it. And especially because I let their gunsmith do it. And I think I could have done it. I've done some minor gunsmithing and metal removal on some of my revolvers and stuff. But their guy did such a good job, and that thing fits so nice. And it just shoots. But I'll tell you, shooting 45 Colt in that Walker, it's a riot. It's not as powerful, shooting like the cowboy loads. But I just filmed a video the same day I filmed that 357 video, where just for fun, since it's a 45 Colt converter, I put cowboy fast draw wax bullet loads in it and did a little video on that. That video will come out this coming Monday. But,
Nice.
So it was, it's a silly thing to do, but I was out there and I was like, come on, I have to try this. I've got the converter.
Might as
Put
well.
it in there, and you've never heard a Walker sound so silly when it goes off and it shoots a wax cowboy fast draw bullet. And like I said in the video, I'm not advocating the use of a 5-pound gun for cowboy fast draw, but it was just kind of a fun thing to do. But yeah, long story short, that curse converter, fantastic.
Yeah. And the guys that now are converting them to those 45, 55 Walker cartridges, you've seen those? Mm-hmm. I would love that in your snub nose. That would be so cool in that little snub nose that you could actually load cartridges. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I don't have that snub nose, but the kid that lent that to me, I know him, and we've talked about. I need to get with him because he's had some other ideas for videos for me that I think are great. So that might be something in the future.
Yep. Landon Simpson said Colt Walker versus 40 grain 45 Colt. I'm pretty sure 45 Colt is more powerful. Yes, in the historic loads, I think maybe.
I think so too. I think they're very close. If not, 45 Colt might beat it personally.
Stephen M. Mann said my 270 grain bullets will get 1,000 feet per second easily. I think he might be talking about 45 Colt there, I think. Going to scroll through here and then we'll talk a little bit more, but I want to get kind of caught up here. I said, Garrett, Justin was asking about Navy shooting high. What's your guys' thoughts? Yeah, we answered that a little bit ago. They do shoot high, and they've always shot high. Now, I think the replicas honestly shoot higher than the originals in a lot of cases, but the last video I did with an original was with snappers, and it tended to shoot about 6 inches high and 3 inches to the left. But once I figured out where it was at, I think for the first time ever, I think I went consistently without missing in that video, except for the 4-inch target at 20 yards. And so the good thing is the originals, even though they shoot high, tend to shoot in the same place every time. So
yeah, they're extremely consistent.
Oh, Gina Wood says she has casings. We're almost down to the bottom. And everything black powder said gray. I loaded black powder in 45 ACP to shoot through my Thompson. Okay.
I need to see that. Is that a video?
Yeah, is that a video? Everything? That'd be cool.
That would be cool.
I'd love to watch that.
So anyway, that pretty well catches us up on questions. So I have to ask: is there any plans to do like the new line pocket pistols, Dustin? The cartridges for the Pocket Navy and Pocket Police, or is your 51 Navy, since it's got an 18 grain charge? Is it suitable for all?
It should be suitable for anything with a cylinder long enough. I'm not sure. Is the cylinder on the Police shorter?
It's about 1/8 of an inch shorter.
Okay, so 1/8 of an inch, it might actually be fine. There's a little bit of grace there, especially with round ball cartridges, for sure. That would work. But there will be a video on that. In fact, I mentioned, the kid that had the snub-nosed walker. One of the things he emailed me about is that he got a 62 Police Navy and wants me to come do a video. And so we will be doing that. And I can take those measurements and stuff, and we'll get something made for that.
Uh-oh.
What's uh-oh?
Well, if you're going to compare, we'll talk after the stream. I might have something to help you compare against if you want to.
Okay.
Everything black powder said, yeah, it's a short. You have to go check that out.
Yeah, I'll look that up.
Okay, so they're talking about bullets over there. But yeah, I was just wondering that because Snapper lent you his 49 pocket model and you had cap jamming issues with that. And I've got to wonder if Snapper forgot to tighten the spring back up or not.
I don't think I put this with that wedge. I think I made it too soft with that leather wedge in it.
Yeah, because I have never seen an original have as many cap jam issues as you had in that video.
I took that wedge, or took that piece of leather out, and that gun hasn't given me a single cap jam yet since I've done that. So I think I had it too soft for you. I'm sorry.
No problem at all. Yeah, that's probably what it was. It was probably just bouncing back without having attention. No, because I had a blast shooting it.
I even have better nipples in it now too.
I've shot a lot of original Colts, and I can honestly say I've never had an actual cap jam in probably, I would say I probably ran 300 rounds through originals. I've never actually had a cap jam. And I was watching that and I was like, oh, this hurts.
Yeah.
Something wrong here.
Well, you have to realize too that those nipples that were in that gun were
it was blowing back.
And the originals were that hole was so big, it was popping at almost a half cock. I mean, that was crazy. But once I drilled those out and put the new nipples in, I used those. I just used a set of stock Pieta nipples, and I still think that spring was too weak for those. But I bought a set of Track of the Wolf, I think they were from. It's just an aftermarket nipple with a smaller hole in the center of it. Is on top of the that. So then I also added a little bit more strength to the spring by removing that, and I haven't had a single cap jam out of that gun since. It's been extremely reliable.
I'm just trying to read what's going on over here in the comments. But yeah, they really don't have that issue. And I really wanted Snapper to send you his original Pocket Police because that thing is a dream to shoot for an original.
Oh, the Pocket Navy, you mean? Yeah, that's actually what I was going to talk to him about if you want, especially if you're going to compare it.
Yeah, and it's an awesome gun to shoot. Because I shot it right up against the replica on the same day that I had not touched or worked on the replica. That replica was bad. I don't know. Have you noticed that you birdies kind of going downhill just a little bit, Dustin, with their quality control here lately?
To be honest, I haven't, but I haven't bought one in a while, with the exception of what did I just buy? Oh, I got that Remington carbine, and it seems okay. I haven't really given it a good test yet. I just took it out. I did a video when I took it out and just fired kind of the first shots. Didn't really do any load testing. Just kind of one load just to shoot it. But seemed like my other guns. But other than that, I haven't really bought any lately.
Yeah. Texan asked me this. He said, I think this is to us. He said, how's the new range coming along? Also, ever shot a Cattleman carbine? If so, any thoughts? I have not. I've shot the Rough Rider Rancher carbine, but I've never shot a 45 Colt carbine. In the range, it's moved. It's just not set up yet. We're going to work on that some more tomorrow. It takes quite a bit of time to set that range up. But yeah, so short video tomorrow, but hopefully moving on. But have you shot the carbines, any of you guys, the Cattleman carbines?
Mm-mm.
Like you, I've shot the Heritage 22 one.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of fun, except those carbines, the way they pepper your face is a little
Oh,
rough.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine shooting a full-blown 45 Colt. I know I've been around the black powder Remington ones, but the way that it comes out of the cartridge is different when you're even like that 22. It is so loud.
Yeah.
I mean, it is like right there, and it's
Well, being a
mind it.
revolver and that sound can escape way back there at the cylinder, and your face is right up against it.
Yeah, I wasn't real fond of it. I mean, I guess I can. I mean, it's doable if I got used to it, but I really wasn't too fond of it. It was powder back and loud.
Yeah.
Speaking of crazy, that Walker, I put that shoulder stock on that thing. That thing is a riot. Man, that thing is fun, but it's the same problem.
I bet it's worse.
Oh, it's way worse, but it's so fun, especially with 60 grains in a round ball.
Oh man, you can imagine that pepper hitting.
Believe it or not, it actually hurts your shoulder.
Really?
That thing has quite a bit more kick than I was expecting it to.
Okay. Serpent Hanzo said, if you given the opportunity, would you consider getting your walkers engraved? Like the cylinders are already engraved, at least mine is. But you mean like getting it completely engraved? I'd have to figure it out. I'm not as big a Walker fan as some people, even though I love Colt. But I don't know. You guys ever thought about getting a Colt replica engraved?
Not really, to be honest. I just like it the way it is, so I probably just wouldn't put up the cost for that.
Yeah.
And like you say, the cylinder's engraved already.
I was for a while considering doing it to a single action army, just to have a really nice custom made single action army for myself. But when I started getting more into the hobby, I got more into the originals. I wanted an original, and I'm like really against touching any original gun, changing it in any way.
Yeah.
I should say this. In Red Dead Redemption 2, I always get my revolvers engraved.
Yep, exactly. Exactly. I knew we were going to head down that road just a little ways. And I'm sorry, I will use the Cattleman revolver from the beginning of the game all the way to the end.
That was
the only gun in the game that I use.
They put the Volcanic as the strongest pistol in the game.
Yeah, that's pretty sad. With the
and I think it's funny that the most powerful gun in real life was the weakest pistol in the game. Well, the weakest revolver in the game. The Cattleman was the weakest, and it's like that was the most powerful cartridge at that time.
Yeah, the one in the game sounds like my CO2 version.
Yeah. my loadout on that is always going to be the Cattleman, the Auto 5 automatic shotgun, and the rolling block for long range. Those
are the three guns I use in the game, exclusively.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. That's once you get that Auto 5 cranked up with the incendiary rounds or whatever. Yep. I mean, there's really no need to use literally anything else unless you run out of ammunition.
Nope.
I just sit outside the Braithwaite Manor and just stack them because they never quit coming.
I love that game. I need to play it again. It's been like a year since I played it. I love that game.
I bought it because viewers kept begging me to, and I bought it and I didn't even know how to use a PlayStation, and now I love that game.
The only reason I got it is I bought my son a PlayStation because I promised him when he turned 10, I would get him an actual gaming system. He wasn't allowed to have one prior. And I hadn't played video games at all. And then all of a sudden that thing is boom. And I was like, what is this? What is Red Dead Redemption? This is cool. And yeah, let's just say it stole it away from him for a while.
Maybe one of these days, Franklin, but not today. So we're getting down in here. There's a few more questions. Skunkworks Rifle says, do any of you have any cannons?
I do.
Yeah.
No.
A little one, a mini one.
I wish.
So do I. But this is probably smaller than yours. Isn't yours considerably bigger than this? Yours is the Traditions, isn't it?
Yeah, mine's the Traditions. It's a 50 caliber. I think the barrel's a little longer than that, and that looks like the kind that would be on a ship.
Yeah, this is like
like a Civil War.
This is a 36. So
okay.
But yeah, I got a handful of them. But yeah, I really like yours. Those are cool.
Those are cool.
Yeah, mine is in my video intros now. A little slow motion clip of it that's in every video now.
Yeah. Skunk Works Rifle. If you really want to see an actual YouTuber who has a pile of actual cannons, who is a very easy guy to talk to, go check out Firearms Addict. I think he has 5, and they're real, and he has a shed full of them. So, yeah, he's got some good stuff on that channel. Very underrated. Let's see here. We got Mill Creek Range said, I just started casting my 2 original Winchester Model 1873s, chambered in 44 Winchester centerfire. Looking forward to loading up soon. See how it goes with both rifles.
Nice. I just stole one from Garrett.
I was about to say I would grab my Winchester, but it's behind Snapper. So you got lever? You got any Winchester or replica lever guns, Dustin? I don't think I've seen a lot of replica lever guns on here.
So this is one of those sad stories where I sold a gun and now I kick myself all the time. And I don't think it was ever on the channel, but I had a Winchester 94. And it was in 30-30. And with a channel of Guns of the West, it's like, why did I let that go? Granted, it was before, though, that I started really doing the Old West videos. So I can use that as an excuse. But yeah, that's one of those ones that I kick myself for letting go.
Yeah. iPod Walker said, hey, guy, when are you going to shoot a haul? Well, I don't have one, but the rate that Ethan's going right now, he has such a lineup coming in that is going to be so insane as far as flintlocks and stuff go. You're going to see some very rare rifles coming up in the flintlock side of this channel. And as soon as we get our new range set up, it's going to be the long range is going to be specifically set up for Ethan to test some of those 1800 flintlock rifles and even cap locks. And we don't have a haul yet, but I'd give it a year. I bet you one shows up. It's kind of in the works. Gray Pilgrim asked, does anyone sell shoulder stocks anymore? Where'd you get yours, Snapper?
I actually found mine on Gunbroker, and I made a video, or I made a post on it. If you go to my community tab, and I actually put the name of the company that I bought it from because they had them in stock, and it was cheap, like really cheap. I think it was $150, something like that, for that skeleton shoulder stock.
Yeah. Jay Wheeler. Hey, Jay Wheeler's in, guys. Another great channel. Go check him out. He's growing like a weed over there. I think he's close to 60,000 himself. But he said there's pretty good engraver near me, and I was talking to him recent gun show. I'm really thinking about getting a pair of 51 Navy conversions engraved.
That'd be cool.
Do you guys watch Jedi Knight, any of you?
Yeah.
Have you seen where he had those engraved pepper box, 51 Navy pepper boxes engraved and converted to cartridge? Those were insane. Bird's head grips. It was based on the Pieta pepper box, you know, that they sell. It's just a 51 Navy with a
really long cylinder.
Long cylinder. Yeah. But he completely converted them over, put bird's head grips on them, redid them, chambered them in, I think, 38 special or 45. And they was the coolest things. You couldn't hit anything with them, but they were the coolest things you ever did see.
I gotta check that out. That sounds pretty cool. You still alive, Duke? Nope.
Duke.
Yeah.
Oh, there he is.
I thought maybe he tuned out when we started talking about video games. And
yeah, I figured.
No, he loves that game. He ain't gonna tune out for that. Duke, where do you find the first Auto 5 in Red Dead Redemption 2?
In the old lady's cabin.
Where at?
I don't
it's in the
know
basement.
Where it's at on the map, but I know it's in the old lady's cabin.
Well, just a little trivia. How do you get it?
Shoot her and then go down the basement and grab it.
If you don't, it won't be there. But he knows that for some reason. I don't know.
Oh, it's there,
like way up in the northwest.
I just shoot her. I don't have to listen to her.
I always thought if you didn't shoot her, she ends up getting on her donkey and riding away. And then next time you go there, all her sons are there.
Her sons show up, and so that changes the story.
You know what's crazy in that game? I was playing that. That was maybe a couple months ago. And there was this scene where I was supposed to rescue a lady, and like I accidentally shot her horse or something. She got mad, and so she started running away. And I thought, I wonder how far the game would actually track, you know, this little side character running away. So I just followed and followed and followed and followed, and she went all through like multiple states in the game until eventually she's running up a stream, and a grizzly bear got her and just brutally mauled her. I couldn't believe my eyes. It was amazing.
Yeah, I had that where my wife named the horse Fred that I had. And so she watching me doing my second playthrough, and I had not lost that horse the whole game. Like I was very good with that very specific horse. And we wound up, of course, doing what you always do eventually, ran off a cliff, and there he is laying on the ground. And she's like, you got to get medicine and help him. So I ran clear across the deal, and it was one of those moments that I'll just never forget because she's watching. And I finally get to the stable, and I get the medicine, and I hit the wrong button and shot him.
Oh,
And I had to go all the way across the map, and I think when I got back, I think the horse was dead.
oh, that sucks.
I was on an honor run, so I couldn't steal another one.
If you're riding around there for a little bit, every now and then a person will come up to you and ask you to race. They're like, I have the best horse. Before they get done saying it, I always shoot their horse and ride off. Like, you no longer have the best horse.
Oh my. Well, let's see. Let's roll on down through here. Any more questions? Yeah, Landon
to
Simpson.
get your demons out.
Oh yeah, it's so fun. You can be the worst person in the world.
You gotta do at least one low honor run and one high honor run.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
My
Because
poor
you
son
gotta-
had this look at me once. If you're in Strawberry, the town Strawberry, there's a kid looking for his dog. And
Yeah.
you find the dog and you get it back to him. He's thanking you because it's like the only family he has. I just went dead eye and just killed the dog in front. I was like, that's what you get for having connections like that, kid. It shouldn't be your only family.
Lyndon Simpson said, what all you think about the 150th anniversary Winchester 73 from you, Birdie? Y'all think Colt or you, Birdie, will do anything for the 150th anniversary? Best gun ever, single action army. I have not. I've never owned a you Birdie Winchester 73. I don't know if any of the rest of you guys have.
No.
Nah.
I don't know. I don't know if Colt will do anything for the 150th anniversary. I mean, they're already putting out the single action army, but maybe it'd be cool if they did. CZ would have to do it.
You think they would? You really do think they would?
Stephen M. Mann said Dixie has some shoulder stocks. Not sure if they're in stock. Dustin, this is a question for you from Jason 60 Chev. Would your cartridges packs fit into a Civil War revolver cartridge box?
If I understand the question, it's will the little boxes fit in there?
Will your cartridge packs fit into the Civil War?
I would imagine the wooden ones probably would. The plastic ones, I'm not sure. I would have to try that out. And the reason I'm not sure is because they're a little longer to make room for that extra hole that holds 6 caps.
Okay, so would this hold your pistol cartridges too? Because I know they obviously aren't going to go in your. Or is there a separate box for pistol cartridges?
What box do you have?
This is I can't remember the exact year on it, but it's basically a Union cartridge box that has it has an inside flap here, large. I got a plastic deal in there right now for paper cartridges.
Oh, okay, so that's just a regular infantry
Yeah.
cartridge box. No, the pistol cartridge box, it would hold. Originals would hold 3, and I've got one dead on my table, and I've got 3 packs of 51 Navy cartridges in it. And the way I sewed it, I didn't sew it right, and they're very tight. But yeah, then there's a little bitty side pouch, and that's where you keep the screwdriver and nipple wrench.
Mm-hmm.
And to Jason 60 Chev, who asked that, one thing I will say, the 44 box that I make, the one I call it the deluxe that holds the caps and the cartridges. It's 4 1/4 inches long. It's about 3/4 of an inch thick, maybe a hair less. And it's about, if I remember right, about 1.5 inches tall, if that gives you some information that might help.
And let's see. Grizz9999 said, I would love to see a plowboy load would do out of a Remington carbine with a conversion cylinder. Yeah, you've tested that, haven't you, Dustin? Not plowboy loads, but 45 Colt out of a conversion cylinder in one of those?
Not in a Remington. I don't have any conversion for that gun. Not yet, anyway.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. And then these boxes, I don't know if they have a spot for the caps in there or not. I bought them, and they were supposed to be designed so that you could put your cartridges in there and then glue them up, and they would be just like the original. Problem is they came already glued, so I'd have to tear them up to get the cartridges in them.
Yeah, that was a feature I didn't like. Like the ones that I make, and this was, I have to give credit to Richard, who makes the wooden ones, is we both make them with a reusable paper sleeve that just slides on.
Man,
so you don't
I like
tear
that
it up every time.
Yeah,
Same mine's for historical accuracy because I use it out at Fort Laramie, so I didn't care.
Gray Pilgrim says, I haven't played that game. I'm a heretic. I use a Mac.
Well, if you like our YouTube channels, go play that game.
Dude lives out his outlaw dreams in Red Dead.
The best way to put it is being a cowboy simulator-ish, and you get to at least live like a cowboy for a while. It's great.
It reminds me, I've described it this way before, it's like Westworld. Because you basically just immerse yourself into the Old West and do whatever you want.
Yeah. And it's,
I played that game one
you don't
high honor, and ever since then I don't bother.
It doesn't. You don't have to do the story. You don't have to. If you got a problem with anything, you don't have to do anything. You can sit there and raise cattle and farm your whole life and run a ranch. So you can run around and protect the cattle and stuff from. You know, you don't
do
have
like I
do
do,
anything.
just ride around and kill everybody.
You can just live. It's basically you're just living in an Old West world, and it doesn't. You know. That's what I like about it. There's no, I mean, you can do the story and all that, but there's nothing definitely set.
And the best thing in the game is there'll be people that have bounty hunters, and they'll have a person in a little cage asking for help. You steal that wagon with them in the back, park it up next to a cliff, and then shoot the lock off of it, and the person will come out. You'll get positive honor as they fall to their death.
So I have to ask Dustin, because I know that game and your channel went hand in hand for a long time. It seemed like. So did you play the game before or was the people on the channel telling you about it and got you into it?
They were telling me about it and got me into it. 'Cause I had a video, well, it's still on there, but my video called The Cowboy Load. That's the one, do I load 5 or do I load 6? And I talk about all that. And I hit the hammer with a mallet and kind of things, set it off. That video all of a sudden just started exploding, and I had no idea why. It's over 3 million views, and it's the biggest video that I have by far. And it was funny because the videos I put the most effort in are the ones that end up being duds, and then the ones that I just throw together on a Sunday afternoon after church explode. And I've never been able to explain that.
Yeah.
And this was one of those that I just threw together. The audio, like I cringe every time I watch it, but I don't take it down because it's enormous. And anyways, I kept wondering what is going on. And people kept saying, that's just like Arthur's gun. And I'm like, who's Arthur? And why does everybody know this guy? And I've never even heard of him. And then finally somebody said something about RDR2. So I Googled that. I thought that was like a robot on Star Wars. And so I Googled RDR2 and I found out about this game and this Arthur Morgan. I'm like, oh, okay, this makes sense. And so that game coming out, I guess the timing was just perfect with my video of when I think it had been out for a while, but it just started popping up in people's feeds because they were watching Red Dead stuff. And all of a sudden I'm getting all these comments from like teenagers and early 20s and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, wow, this is Black Powder's getting into a younger generation. And found out about that game, and then everybody starts saying, you got to try it, you got to try it. So we bought a PlayStation 4 just to try this stupid game. And then once I kind of got the feel of the remote and stuff, then I did a video of the game, and I think I've done 1 or 2 more since then. But yeah, back to your, I do long-winded answers, but back to your question, it was the latter. I was doing the videos, and then the game came out, and the viewers told me about the game, and so that's how we kind of got intertwined.
Yeah, I think that game is the keystone. Like a lot of people of our generation, it came from movies or some. I think most people I've ever, like younger people I've met that's into antique firearms, Black Powder stuff, because of that game.
Oh yeah,
people don't understand how important that new medium is. But I live not very far from it's a couple hours from the National World War I Heritage Museum. I actually got to go through that one whole day with Othias from Seeing Arsenal. We got to spend the whole day, me and about 5 other people going through. That was awesome. But that was a long time ago. But the guy was telling us, and Othias was asking, because Othias is asking, and he's like, how is this museum doing? Because everybody this was in 2018. Everybody that I've talked to is like, our World War I, World War II museums are dying. And he said, yeah, they were until the game Battlefield 1 came out. And he said, we now have more teenagers coming through here and spending hours and hours in these exhibits. He said, than we have old people. And the old people don't like it. but they're, because it's just, they don't, I mean, they're a little bit unruly sometimes, but it's like these teenagers were coming in there and learning history because they had a game called Battlefield 1 all about, it was set in World War I. And they're like, oh, cool, these firearms and everything, that's tied into it. I can go right down the road here and see one, so it's a lot of people don't understand how important it is to move on to the new media sometimes.
It really is. And like you said, the teenagers, they might get a little unruly, but without them, this stuff does die.
Yep. And that's what that guy was saying. He said, I never saw anybody under about 60 years old hardly ever in here. He said, now it's just roving bands of teenagers coming through the museum wanting to see what's going on in here. I thought that was pretty cool.
It is.
By Landon C asked Duke, he said, are you making any McKeever boxes? We just talked about this the other day.
No, because those are a little bit more intricate. I probably will at some point. But right now, not those. The ones I've been looking at to see if I can find a pattern is a Dwyer pouch. Because they'd be a little easier to make. But I'd love to make a McKeever, but they're a little complicated, and it comes down to the brass parts that I need is what's complicated on it.
All right, Snapper. Here we go. Landon Simpson asks, how many pounds do you think it would take to break the safety notch or the sear trigger on a modern single-action army?
Oh, God. Well, I can tell you. Well,
we go for it. We know you know.
All right, so it's kind of a controversial subject, but math is math, engineering is engineering. You can put things in computers and they can tell you, or you can do math, they can tell you exactly how strong each part is. The safety notch, with the crappiest steel, that would be something you would actually find in a gun, because we wanted to find out what would be the weakest link, like not the highest and nicest gun, but the crappiest gun you could find out there. What's the strength of its sear, or its safety notch? And the crappiest one we could come up with was around 1,000 foot-pounds of energy to break that safety notch.
That's like no temper, right?
What's that?
That's like zero temper, right?
Yeah. This is a mild steel, and with a mild steel it would deform, and with a harder steel you wouldn't get it to break. You'd always end up breaking the trigger screw long before the sear would break. But if you pull the trigger hard enough, you can get it to separate from the hammer, the actual notch, because it falls into a tunnel. Your trigger falls into a little tunnel.
If you pull the trigger in half cock, is what you're talking about.
You can get that first notch. Your half cock and your first notch is a little tunnel. It kind of goes into a sear, but it's a tunnel. You can pull that hard enough to get that to separate. And after looking up every picture I could find with a half notch that's broken, or I actually have a hard time finding safety notches that are broken. I found them where they've been ground off, but I've never really seen them as broken, like shear cut broken. But that's the only thing that would explain it. Now, if we're talking about a decent gun, say like Uberti or a real Colt, you're gonna be looking around 1,500 to 2,000 foot-pounds to break one of those.
By hitting the hammer.
Yeah, at minimum you're gonna have to drop a completely loaded gun from about a story and a half, 15-ish feet on the weakest, directly on the worst spot ever to get that to basically break. And you don't break the hammer itself, you're actually going to break the trigger screw, and that'll allow it to fall though.
But yeah, it takes a lot to break.
It takes a lot.
The only historical reference I've seen of it was in the first 73 military trials, where he snapped it on the half cock notch, just let it go, and it did not fire. It caught in a safety notch, but it did break off the half cock notch. So they disassembled it, and the man who was there, I can't remember his name now, the captain who was in charge of ordnance at the time, noted a distinct flaw in the piece from Colt. So obviously it had a scratch or a break or something already.
Yeah, it's an obvious manufacturing defect.
And that was the only thing they said bad about it. It did not discharge because it caught in the safety notch.
Now, I have been doing a little bit of studying myself because I've always been curious where the whole 5 versus 6 came from. If the safety notch is safe, like, and this is my theory because I could never find it actually written down. But my military experience, reading the military files, everything they're saying makes sense to me that they weren't scared that the safety notch was going to break. They were scared about how you put the gun on safe. So, you would go to your half notch, you would load the gun, and you can't go from, you can, but it's not good for the gun, to go from half cock forward. So you always have to go all the way back, pull the trigger, and then ride the hammers forward, till it's all the way forward, and then one click to get it to lock back. And say there's a 1 in 1,000 chance that your finger's going to slip off that hammer while you're pulling the trigger, and you're going to have a negligent discharge. Now, if you're now talking about a garrison or a group of like say 250 people, if they're unloading and loading that gun once a day, you're going to have negligent discharge once a week. And they're going to look at it and say, hey, this is unsafe because our guys keep having negligent discharges, putting the gun on the safety notch. I don't think that I could never found anything that kind of showed that they were scared that the safety notch is going to break. It was always about putting the gun in safe.
That makes a lot of sense to me.
And Duke has some records, and I'm sure he'll tell you about it, of people dropping the gun and it going off. But I honestly think that knowing the gun, I think they have the hammer off the safety notch, firing pin on the cartridge. When they drop it, goes off and shoots them. But go ahead, Duke. I'm sure you.
Yeah,
I could adjust that too. The thing too is when I was in the military, if somebody did something that was their fault, it would be noted that it happened, but it wouldn't say. Because when you're pushing it up, it's your job as a NCO or an officer, whoever's above that person, to correct them. That's training issue. If they drop their gun and it fired, that means they didn't have it on the safety notch per se, right? Then they wouldn't write that down. But if the gun did break, anytime I ever saw a piece of military equipment break in a dangerous fashion, like a single action army would be if you dropped it and it went off, they would write a report saying this gun has a problem of breaking. It's unsafe because it broke. Now, if it's your fault you hurt yourself, they don't care. That's training that can be fixed. But if it's the gun doing it, then they really care, and they'll throw out a bunch of. They would have inquiries. And Colt made that system from 1873 to 1941, and they never changed the lock work of that gun. But
Never
they
changed
changed
the
a
advertising
million
either.
other things about that gun, but they never changed the 4-click system. And if that was such a big hassle, like hazard, you think they would have? The military would have been like, "Hey, we're paying for this. Why are we not getting 6 rounds we're paying for?" So I really feel that the only thing that makes sense to me after reading all the files, going through this, is that they were scared about how you put it on safe, and not that the gun was unsafe. Yeah, accidents can happen, but I think most of it was training based.
Go ahead, Duke.
Yeah, so there's that one account up there on the Rosebud campaign, and that's probably the earliest one I've seen for the 73 single action, where a kid took off his belt, threw the gun down. Of course, they don't specify one way or the other, what condition the gun was in when it was thrown from the belt to the ground. But yeah, I remember I was talking about this not too long ago with a friend of mine, and I had forgotten about this, but we was up in I think it was Rapid City at a gun show one year, and there was an old gunsmith there that had a bunch of Colt parts for sale, and I forgot about this, but there was 3 hammers in that box of parts that the safety notch was broke off of. One of those also had the half-cock notch broke off because the guy was selling them for $25 a piece, and if we wanted him to weld them up, he would weld them up for another $75.
Yeah.
And then recut the safeties. But I wouldn't be surprised if they did break back in the day, just because crappy made steel, you never know.
And that could be coming from, like we said before, we do know that they came with defects, at least in the trial.
Yeah, if the trial one had a defect,
it's possible. It is possible they could come with a defect.
Yeah.
But also you got to take into consideration, too, how much flex has that hammer got, and does it have enough flex for that firing pin, even if it doesn't break that safety notch, just the flex of the metal hitting that firing pin, hitting that cartridge hard enough to set it off, because primers back in the day were mercury fulminate. It does not take a lot of energy to set off mercury fulminate.
Of course. Now, I actually ran that idea on the CAD as well, and we got about 5,000 worth of movement until the trigger spring or the trigger screw starts to bend. And it was right around 800-900 foot-pounds when it will start to just bend, and once you hit right around that, it will then become plastic, which will bend and then stay bent. And once you get to that, then there's gonna be enough bending that nose will contact the primer. So it's still around 1,000-ish.
Yeah.
The movement isn't too much because it's still, it is about not quite. It's a little more than 1/8 of an inch, not as quite as 1/4 of an inch of movement that would take for it to touch. And there wasn't enough movement until you start to actually bend the trigger screw.
So let's go over here to Swim as Fast as You Can from New Zealand. Said, here's a fun, stupid question. If Batman had a gun, what gun would he use? I'm thinking about sledgehammer now. Okay, let's go around with that one. All right, Dustin, if Batman had a gun, what gun would you suggest for Batman's kid? I know you deal with modern firearms.
Batman had a gun, huh? That might take some thinking. I don't know that it would even be a firearm.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll pass. Snapper, what do you say?
I'm gonna go a harpoon gun just because that would be hilarious.
Yeah, right? Something non-firearm.
Yeah. Quiet.
I was watching one of the Batman movies the other day, and he had 250 caliber machine guns mounted into the Batmobile. So I guess he's already got two.
Yeah.
There you go. Question's already been answered.
I'm gonna go with Hudson H9. Just because he loves tactical stuff that's different than what everybody else has. And it's got that low bore axis, zero recoil flip, and it looks like the Batmobile in a handgun. Oh, have you ever had any dealing with those Hudson firearms that were out for a while, Dustin?
No.
Yeah, they were only out for a few years. They were going to be the Glock killer, and then they died.
Oh.
They were made in Texas, I believe. Okay, let's get on down through here. Okay, iPod Walker. Does anyone know where to get a fortune cone for a Colt model 1895 41 long Colt? Mine has a divot. My dad shot Cowboy Load 41 out of it, and I think it took a piece. Saw it after I got it after he passed. I don't have mine here. I do have one, but I didn't know the fortune cone could be changed that easily.
I thought it was a solid
part of the barrel.
Yeah. You could TIG weld it in, stick an aluminum rod roughly the same size of that bore, and TIG weld it, and then that will keep the metal from disforming too much. And then put a reamer through it right at that spot for the. There's a certain amount of degrees you can put into a gun, so for the forcing cone, and then you just recut that, and you'll be perfect.
I would take it to a gunsmith, and they could fix it.
Yeah, take it to a gunsmith.
If you know what you're doing, yeah, but I'm always afraid I'm going to ruin the temper by welding on an actual barrel or heating it. So, and that might just be me. Maybe I'm wrong. Snapper knows more about it than I do.
As long as you don't shock cool it, because then you're going to overharden it. You're going to need to retemper it. You want it to be like a spring, so you can. If it gets to the point where it's red, you lost your temper. So if it gets to the point that it's red, I would say probably go, because any information I can give, I don't want anybody to misconstrue and hurt themselves. That'd be the best way to put it. If it does get red, you would actually quench harden it, and then you would temper it like a spring. But yeah.
Yeah. Serpent Hands, though, said, speaking of Battlefield 1, guys, Springfield or infield, which bolt action do you prefer?
Well, I actually don't have any experience with infield and Springfield for a long time, and not infield at all. So I'd probably say Springfield.
Yeah.
I would say Springfield. Probably the Springfield.
Duke, didn't you shoot infield the other day?
Yeah, I shot that Remington infield, and that was a nice gun.
That's the one I'm going to go with.
Isn't
I'm going
that
to go
the
with
one that has
infield.
the straight pullback, so you don't have to?
No. But
Okay.
it's got a spring-loaded bolt.
Yeah.
cock on
Imagine if
close.
the Springfield and the infield had a baby. It's
Yeah, that 1917 infield. That's going to be, well, unless he's talking. I don't know if it's between the regular British infield, the Lee infield, and the Springfield. I'm going with the Springfield, but the American-made infields, whoo, P17 is really hard to beat with that cock on close. So a few other questions here, guys, and we'll get ready to wrap it up here in just a little bit, but we got some comments here. Landon Simpson said, Snapper, you mentioned pulling the trigger hard enough that if it's in the half cock, it will separate. I've actually accidentally done that in the safety cock while it was unloaded. How harmful is that?
If you have to pull it very hard. To get that to separate, you're gonna have to pull it extremely hard. It showed up to be a number that was something a person can do, but not easily. So if you pulled it with every single bit of your might, then you need to take it apart and look at it. If you didn't, you're probably fine. If you're ever worried that there is a crack in any of those areas, there's this stuff called dye penetrant. It comes in 2 spray cans. It's a little white can and a little can that shoots out red dye. You shoot the red dye over the part, you wipe it off, and then you shoot the white stuff over top of it, and any of the red that goes into a crack will then seep out, and you'll be able to see it crack perfectly.
Yeah.
If you're ever worried that stuff's cheap, just do that.
Stephen M. Mann said, think Hudson's problem was its price tag? Absolutely. They wanted to be a Glock killer, and they came in at $1,000 per pistol. There was no way they were going to do it.
Yeah.
But it was a cool gun because it literally had no recoil because the way the gun was set up, the barrel was right in line with your trigger finger. And so it pushed back instead of up, and people really liked it. And I know a lot of professionals and race guns, they made race guns out of a lot of them. Gray Pilgrim said you can Mad Minute an infield. Everything Black Powder said Springfield, hands down. I don't know. That 1917 American-made infield by Remington, pretty tough to beat. Everything Black Powder. I'm sure you know that, though. But you know what? I'll say Springfield's the more American of the two. And yeah, he said he was talking about the American infield.
Okay.
And let's see. Yeah, the straight pullback is an Austrian design for the Mannlicher. Yep.
Okay.
All right, guys. So we're caught up there. So now what do you want to talk about?
I was actually going to ask Dustin, it's not old gun stuff, but what do you think today is one of the very best concealed carry 9mm pistol?
Glock 19. And I say that because that's my carry gun. And ever since, I mean, I've had Glocks I've had other ones too. I like the Springfield, the Smith & Wesson a lot too. I like their M&P line. I don't like the long first stage of their triggers though. Other than that, I like the gun. Okay. But the Glocks, you know, some people, it's one of those things, you love it or you hate it. I've never met anybody that kind of likes it. It's either they're a full-on fanboy or fangirl, or it's garbage Tupperware and don't ever buy one. I'm the more fanboy side of that, because it's one of those things. And there's nothing wrong with being this way, but some people feel like every new gun that comes out is going to be the best. You got to get it. You got to replace what you got. I'm more in the old school of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm still on the 3rd generation Glock. I had a 4th one for a little bit. The 5th one didn't appeal to me at all just because I didn't see anything I really needed on it that I didn't have on my 3rd. So I'm still using a 3rd generation Glock 19, and the darn thing just works awesome.
Mm-hmm. I just never got used to it's what you know. And and I just never got used to that striker fire in there. The closest thing I like a lot that is kind of like it, but I like the trigger a little better, is the Ruger Security 9. Yeah, and I don't know if you think of that, but that's really where I kind of lean on that. I really like that Ruger Security 9.
Ruger makes really good stuff.
What do you think about the P365?
The SIG P365?
Yeah, that's what my wife wants.
I've not shot one. SIG makes some good stuff. I don't remember on that one. I saw it at the SHOT Show back in 2018. I think they brought that one out. And remind me though, does that one have the external hammer that's double action the first shot and single action on all the other shots?
I think so. I'd have to look. I'm not too knowledgeable when it comes to the newer stuff. I just know that's what the wife wants. I think it is a hammer, but it might be striker fired. I'm not sure.
Okay, yeah, I'd have
The
to
audience will
look to
probably know better
remember.
than I would.
That's the only thing on some of the SIGs I don't like is where you've got that double action first shot and then all the other shots are single action. I like it just be all the same every time. Every time I fire the shot, which is one thing I like about those striker guns is that's the way they are, like a Glock, for example.
Makes sense.
But I would say quality-wise, yeah, SIG is good stuff.
Okay.
iPod Walker wants to know, since we're on this, Dustin, he wants to know if you carry the G19 with one in the chamber.
I do. If you do that, though, make sure you've got a good holster. You're going to keep the trigger secure and everything. And to be honest, when I first bought a Glock, my first Glock was a 17. I actually still have it. It was a 3rd gen 17. And I wasn't comfortable keeping around in the chamber until I was in a class with a Glock armorer, I think a couple of Glock armorers, and going through it with them and kind of seeing through their eyes, the internals and how the safety features work, kind of converted me and made me feel totally comfortable with the gun to the point that as long as the trigger's protected, I have no problem with it. And I've used various holsters. The one I have right now is actually a pretty simple one. It's a Safari Land. What's the model called? 7TX or something like that. But it's a retention holster from Safari Land. It keeps the trigger totally encased.
Yeah. What about you, Duke? I know you're going to say 1911, but modern guns.
Modern gun?
Yeah.
A Tassos 1911.
okay. I thought you were going to say that you still miss that M&P you had.
Yeah, that one was an all right gun, and I've thought about getting a Glock 23 just because I've got so much 40 Smith & Wesson ammo sitting around that not doing anything with. Yeah, no, nothing beats a 1911. And when it comes down to between 1911 and Glock, which is better, throw a Glock and a 1911 on the floor with a puppy in the room and see which one survives.
Yes.
It won't be the puppy.
Snapper. Terrible. Oh, okay. So here we go. Deja Vu has one for you, and I think he's talking to you, Dustin. If you had CCW and Old West guns before 1900, which gun would it be?
I like the way he worded that. If I had to, because I don't advise it. But I would probably say, and this is mostly, there might be something more practical, but mostly just for my love of it, I'd probably go single action Army, maybe just with a shorter barrel than what you usually see on my channel.
Yeah. Well, there's some people still do it today for reasons. And around here, like it depends on what I'm doing. If we're on horseback every day, you really have to carry, if you're going to carry something like a single action Army, because I've said this before, but a Glock, you don't want anything that if the horse jumps, you could accidentally set off a second shot by bumping or pulling the trigger. Even a double action revolver, I've seen it happen, especially if you get bucked off. You want to have two actions.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on your job. That's what I tell a lot of people. You want to have two actions between yourself and that. But I honestly, as much as I love the Colt, this is not Garrett from 11 Bang Bang. Setting that character aside, this is Garrett who has experienced all these guns extensively. If I'm not on horseback in the Old West, if I'm like riding in a buggy, doing train work, stuff like that, double action Smith & Wesson large bore with a short barrel, because
all right, get him out of here. He's drunk.
You can break that open and you can load it with even a speed loader. And they did have speed loaders back then.
Yeah.
But also people don't realize that the Colt swing out cylinder comes out in 1889. So that's probably your all-time best. But if you're thinking about like single action Army, a single action gun, horseback, I like a short Schofield in all reality. Just much as I don't like the history of it, it's just hard to beat that top break extraction.
I agree. Hard to argue with.
Seeing your brother play with that one, I was like, ooh, I want one of those now.
I mean, the only thing you run into is it's hard to conceal, but if you want to conceal it, there's top break, 32s, 38s, a lot of those were sold. A lot of those.
1877, hands down.
Yeah, well, yeah, you might. You know, it just depends on what you're
It
doing.
depends. It would depend. I think if I was in a big town, I would want the fast reloading abilities of the Smith and Wesson. But if I was in a smaller town, probably the 18, a bunch, because I could just tailor what I carry that day to where I live and what I'm doing.
Yeah. And I'm specifically talking about 1890s Old West. Now, if you're going to set me back in 1860s, 1870s Old West, where I'm going to be away from any gunsmith and I'm going to be all by myself on my own and might have to have a prolonged survival situation, then I'm taking a Colt because it's just way simpler and way less moving parts.
Grab a couple extra springs and you'll be fine.
Yep. Oh, anyway, what do you think, Dick?
51 Navy or its conversion.
That's a good call, especially a cut down. What do you call that? The not Angel of Death, is it? What's it called, Dustin?
The Avenging Angel.
Avenging Angel.
The 1860 Army cut down.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So,
I need to get me one of those. I actually want to do some videos about Porter Rockwell because he lived a lot of his life and died right here in this valley where I'm sitting.
Yeah. I haven't seen his painting on the wall in your videos here recently, or maybe I've just missed it. You're not using that old setup you used to have?
I sometimes do, but a lot of times I'm just too lazy to set the green screen up. And I guess we've actually done some rearranging in our house too. It's a little harder to use the green screen than it used to be. And so a lot of times you'll see my intros and outros of my videos where I'm just sitting in that chair in the corner of the room and, in like a recliner thing, just because that's a lot more convenient now. But every once in a while I pull it out. I did a video. Gosh, what video was it? Just here recently I did one where I did have the Porter Rockwell bar in there. And I guess the green screen works because a lot of people thought I was filming in there.
I did. I did not know. That was a very good green screen. I did not know.
You could always usually tell somebody with a green screen. And yours, actually, it was really hard to tell you're in front of a green screen.
Oh, well, thanks. My early videos, you can tell because, and Santee helped me a lot to get this worked out. I would stand with my back here too close to it. And I look like a Jedi ghost with the green glow around me.
So you just got to be far away from the green screen.
You want to get 4 to 6 feet away from the fabric, and then you don't get that spill over onto your clothes. It used to show up real bad, like around the brim of my hat. It would look really bad in some of my early videos. But Santee kind of helped me with some tips. But yeah, I was having lunch in that restaurant / bar. It's not even there anymore. They tore it down a few years back. I was having lunch in there, and I just loved the look of it for a background. So I asked the owner if I could take a picture and use it in videos. He said, "Oh yes, we got everybody out of the way, and we just took a photo of it, and that's all that is."
That's awesome.
Landon Simpson said, "What's wrong with carrying a single action army? It's powerful and simple, also quicker to unload and reload than most people say. I can do it in 20 seconds." I'll let Dustin answer that, but my answer to that is do what you're comfortable with and what you can do.
Yeah, do what you're comfortable with. Do what works for you. I would say, though, give yourself every possible advantage you can if you're talking about self-defense. And I've had a lot of people on my channel ask me, what's wrong with a cap and ball revolver? It worked so well back in the day. And it's true, it did. But back in the day, that's what the bad guy had as well. The bad guy wasn't shooting a semi-automatic and having extra mags and all that kind of stuff. And so as much as I love the cap and ball revolvers, I'm passionate about them and everything, but if I'm going to trust my life to a gun and trust my family's lives to a gun that I'm carrying, I want the best thing that I can possibly get that's up to what the bad guy's going to have or better. Yeah. And so that's why I said a little while ago that I like the way that guy said, if I had to, because I don't generally advise it. But what's wrong with a single action army? Nothing. There's nothing wrong with it at all. But just keep in mind, you're probably outgunned in a fight. If you do have to get in a fight with a gun, heaven forbid. Unless
you're a great freaking fast, people who do the fast straw competition.
Yeah, and
it's one up on.
Yeah, if you're Bob Mundy or whatever his name was.
It's like I said before. It all depends on the situation. Because if I'm on horseback or going to be, I'm not carrying a semi-auto. There's just no way. It's too dangerous. Yeah, too dangerous to you. Too dangerous to the horse. And there's other jobs and other environments where. I really like the Cimarron Thunderer single action army with the bird's head grip and short barrel for carrying in such a situation. But, it's where you're at. It's what you're doing. But like he said, you don't want to be at a disadvantage. when you're on horseback, the idea that a gang of people are going to ride down on you is like zero. You're off the road anyway. So
yeah,
but,
you're not in a movie theater that's the next target or something like that.
But yeah, if it's what you feel comfortable with, I guess. But
yeah,
I'll take Dustin's advice. He knows what he's talking about.
And whatever you choose, just train with the thing.
Yeah.
If it's not going to be the best gun, at least be the best person with that gun.
Yeah. And Plowboys Ghost said you're in most situations probably not outgunning a single action army, especially not as Plowboys pointed out with the Schofield that now you can put a speed loader to it. That's about as fast as any double action revolver. But yeah, I think we've covered that situation. Yeah, Tuco the Rat would be in pretty good shape up against a group of single action army, but he's pretty fast. Oh my. So we finally covered that. So, okay, I got to ask you this. If you're in a country or situation, and by the way, I'm not saying a convicted felon because a lot of people don't realize convicted felons aren't usually allowed to have dangerous weapons. So
exactly.
balls fall under dangerous weapons.
Yes.
But, and that's what I always hear these people say, well, if you're convicted, you can get no, because you might be able to ship it, but you can't carry a dangerous weapon a lot of times if you're convicted.
That's exactly right.
But if you live in a place like a state somewhere, because this happens all over the world, where you can own a cap and ball revolver, but not a cartridge gun, what are you going to go for then?
So hypothetically, I'm that person and I have to get a cap and ball revolver.
Could be like half the people in the world.
Yeah. Then I'm probably going 1860 Army or 1851 Navy. And when you really pin me down, I'm probably going to say the 1860 Army just to have a little harder hitting, same shot count. That'd probably be my go-to. Maybe even a shorter version of it, but that's probably the gun.
What do you think, Duke?
51 Navy for sure.
Yeah. Snapper, you got a preferred gun? Remington, right?
Yeah, the Remington. I think this Pocket Navy is surprisingly good. It's not as a powerhouse, but it is really concealable.
It's almost as good as 51 Navy.
I would say it's very close. I mean, if you're loading paper cartridges, it's kind of pretty much the same paper cartridge that goes in a 51 Navy. But if they made this guy as a 6-shot, oh, you'd be better.
Yep. By Landon C said pair of walkers. As long as you invest in a pair of suspenders to go with them.
I would say maybe if I'm sitting down all day, I might. I don't know if I want to walk around all day.
And be like, all of that.
I don't even know why they call it the walker. That's a sitter. We don't want
to. Yeah, sitter on the saddle there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. All right, guys, we've been going for an hour and 27 minutes. Let's go for another 4 or 5 minutes and round it out to an hour and a half if nobody else is in a hurry.
I'm good.
You guys good to go for a few more minutes?
Yeah.
All right. iPod Walker said, no, Remington Army with extra cylinders.
Don't get Duke started.
He's going to make
with
another
Crisco.
Billy Yank and Johnny Reb video.
As long as you have a lot of Crisco.
Swapping cylinders never happen with the Remingtons. Happened a lot with a Colt. And the funny thing is, the more and more I dig, trying to find sources that talk about Remingtons being swapped, I always find Colts.
Well, I can tell you right now that one of the main reasons why the Remington was never exchanged like that is because they didn't have the tolerances of manufacturer to do it. Colt did. Remington didn't. Each one of those cylinders would have been fit to the gun.
So, Snapper, this is on our live chat, so it's fine. So, Snapper, grab an Airsoft original Remington, please.
Oh, it's upstairs.
You have one right behind you? Oh, it's upstairs? All right. Okay, sorry. I was going to say, and Snapper
I can grab it if you want. If we're going to
yeah, he's had a lot of originals. He can tell you that. But everything Black Powder said, if you picked a Remington, be sure to bring a bucket of Crisco.
No, yeah. He saw the exact.
I don't know about you guys, but I just don't go anywhere without a bucket of Crisco.
we had this going on. Some guy was, because we've been all using Blackie Thomas's new gut butter. You know, he wanted us to test it out, and it's really good stuff for Remingtons. It's like you grease the barrel, you grease the arbor pin, and you can put it on the top of the ball, but you don't necessarily have to. And it just makes these Remingtons run like crazy.
Mhm.
And we had a guy the other day on Everything Black Powder's channel calling us all snake oil salesmen and basically going after Blackie because he was charging for something that Crisco could do. And it got pretty hairy. But
yeah, this guy was
funny.
like, I can do like 50 cylinders full, something like that, without it ever binding up. And then he gave out the way he loves it. He basically takes the cylinder out each time, puts all new grease in between each load. It's like that's cheating. You're cleaning the gun.
But I did remember Everything Black Powder did write in there. He said it was the Union almost lost the war when in 1862 the Confederacy burnt the Union Crisco factory to the ground. Oh my! It's my mother's recipe. Oh, that's funny. The Garza Vlog said, "Oh, I do like Duke's videos of Billy Yank and Johnny Reb. I think those are going to take over the internet if he keeps doing it. I hope they do. Those are good."
I only saw one of them. I'll have to go back and catch up.
Did
They're good.
Did you see the Coca-Cola one that he put out today? That was a good one. Oh, that was.
Oh,
hilarious.
I didn't see that one yet either.
What's funny though is the first one took off real big. You know, it got 1,800 views since last night. But the other two, they're kind of struggling. I think they're only at. I'll check here and see. The second one's at 200 views, and the third one's at 150 views. But yeah, they're gonna come out. I got a bunch more of them. I think I'm up to 10 right now. I was thinking about rounding it off to 12 and then give it a little break. But there's something that'll be around for a while. Don't know if they're going to be a constant thing, but they're going to be around for a while.
The Crisco kid. AR American said, "I'd rather have a Smith & Wesson than a Remington." LOL. Stop it too hard on Remingtons. So what are your impressions of the replica Remingtons nowadays, Dustin? I mean, we always get into this Colt versus Remington thing, but just as the replicas, you experiencing any, like, in the 90s, the binding seems to have been worse than it was more recently, because I have guns all the way through that era, Remingtons. From the 90s, it started getting them all the way up through. And they seem to be worse back in the day, especially the Army San Marcos, than they are today. Have you had any issues or noticed any changes? Because you shoot a couple of them, I know.
I have two. I have the carbine that's Uberti that I've just had out to the range once. And then I've got the handgun version that's Pieta. And the Pieta one, the issue I had with it, I noticed all of a sudden one day the cylinder was just free spinning. And so I took it apart, and what had happened was the trigger and bolt spring was just a little bit weak, and it kind of bent, and it wasn't pushing the bolt up hard enough to catch the cylinder. So I just kind of manually bent it to put a little more pressure on it. It fixed the problem, but we'll see for how long. Other than that, shoot's fine.
Yeah, and you use grease over the ball, and you don't use wads, I don't think. Or do you use both?
I do both. I typically will just put grease over the ball. And on the Remington, I grease a little more over the ball, counting on the splatter to kind of keep the cylinder working a little bit better. And it does seem to do that.
Yeah, and you keep it rolling.
I would love to see somebody make the center arbor pin like a single action Army on a Remington. That would make the world of difference.
Oh, I never thought about that. Boring it out and actually putting the Colt style bushing in it?
Yep. It would make a world of difference because you would now have two spots to rotate instead of one.
Yeah. AR American said he gave one away. That's how much he liked it.
That's funny.
Soylent Green said, never noticed how much he looks like Othias with the old glasses. Who, me? Or are you talking about? These are my... I finally broke down because people who were complaining I didn't have eye protection in my historical videos, so I finally got some from Townsend's. They work good. They're just safety glasses. They don't. I don't use them for anything other than safety glasses and for looks. Kind of adds to the character. It makes me a better Santa Claus.
It's funny, AR, because that's the same one that I gave to Garrett.
Yeah. So, Okay, Gina Woods said, "Keep up the Johnny Rebs, Duke. It makes my day. I love the laugh." Deja Vu asked this, and then we are getting ready to go, guys. I promise. But he said, "Are the current Uberti revolvers good quality or not so much?" Go, guys. I'll give my opinion last.
I haven't had a problem. The most recent one I bought, like I said, is that Remington carbine, and I've only had it out to the range once, so I'm not really ready to say yes, it's excellent or it's terrible. But it seems to be fine. Is what I'll say.
Yeah.
Me
Snapper,
or Duke?
Go ahead, Snapper.
The biggest problem with Uberti is their arbor pins are too short. That's it. I've noticed also with a lot of Pietas that I've been like given lately to work on is Pieta has gone downhill as well, hard. I think both have dropped their standards because of the whole COVID thing, and hopefully they'll come back up. But if you fix the arbor problem with a Uberti, it makes a world of difference.
I'm waiting for some American company to jump into this deal before.
Oh, I hope so. You know, it'd be so nice if there was an American company that made a high-end quality, like
just like Kibler's doing.
Like
with
just like Kibler. If they did something
rifles
like that here in America on CNC machines, even if they charged like $800-900, it'd be worth it to me for
Go
a really
ahead,
high-end quality gun.
I'd say the biggest problem with Uberti is that they are using a little bit cheaper quality steel than what Pieta uses.
That too.
And anybody that wants to argue that point with me, go to Walmart, buy the cheapest piece of crap rat tail little bitty jeweler's file you can find, lay a Pieta hammer down and a Uberti hammer down that are both case hardened, and drag that file across. That file will not make a mark, won't leave anything. If it leaves any marks, it's going to be dust off the file on the Pieta. And the Uberti, that thing will cut a trench before you get halfway across the length of that file.
Yep.
I've been wanting to do a video on that about the screws, how to case harden them at home for like really easy and pretty much free if you just make a little bit of charcoal. And that makes the screws a million times harder, and it really helps. That helps a lot because you don't mess up the screw heads either.
Yep. I've bought 3, and since COVID, basically, I've bought 3 brand new Captain Ball revolvers from the factory. Usually we buy them secondhand, to be honest, from older people, reactors, auctions, stuff like that, reenactors. But I bought 3 since COVID, and the first one was a 51 Navy Pieta, and I was about 4 shots into it, and it was no longer catching on half cock. The cam on the hammer wore off in like 3 shots, and it wasn't because the steel wasn't good. It literally they hadn't raised that cam up enough to. So replace the hammer. That gun was fine. After that, I bought the 60 Army fluted cylinder, and that gun is a Uberti, and I don't know what is wrong with it. I think it obviously has short arbor issues, but I can get 3 rounds in it, and it doesn't drag. After about 3 rounds, it'll just lock itself up. And I think it's the short arbor I don't know what it's doing. Something's binding. And like I said, it's not like a Remington, like starts dragging and then gets worse and worse and worse. You pop the barrel off, free spin it, put the barrel back on, and it'll work. The last one we got was that Colt 1862 Pocket Police. You can't get 1 shot off with that thing without having to take it apart and move the cylinder and then again. And I don't know what it is. I'm sure if I worked on them, and I've done it in the past, I can make it work. Maybe I just got 2 lemons from Uberti. But, man, it seems like for the price that they're charging more, you would think they would up their game a little bit. Maybe I just got 2 lemons.
Willing to bet what the problem you're having with that is that the hand is binding inside the channel.
Yeah.
And because my 1860 Uberti had that, and what I did is I went in there, I took the hand out, and the outside part of the hand, I rounded that off, so it still engages the notches, the cylinder ratchet the same, but instead of being real wide, it's a little bit narrower, and it goes through that channel a lot better, and all my binding issues went away.
Yep. And all of them, the hammer springs have just gotten so weak. Every one of them gives you blowback.
Yeah, that's a big problem with all the replicas. The hammer springs are way too weak.
Yeah.
I think it was Mark Hubbs was the first one that I saw do this, where on, I want to say it was the Wells Fargo or the 49 pocket, where he would just add another one.
Yeah.
So it had 2 springs in there.
Yep.
That actually brings it up to what a Colt should be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it literally does.
When I was shipping this Pocket Navy to Garrett, the original spring that was in it, the hammer spring broke. And so I put the spring that's in here right now is the one from the 49 pocket. But I put 2 of the Uberti springs from their 49 pocket, because the springs they'll fit each other usually. A little trimming here and there. But I put 2 of them in that 49 pocket, and it feels exactly like the standard hammer spring. It feels exactly the same now. They're quite heavy. Quite heavy.
All right, guys, we've gone 10 minutes past what I said we would. We're just having too much fun. So I go around and ask, Dustin, what you got coming out, if you don't mind sharing?
Sure, I'll share. So this Monday is the Colt Walker with the Cowboy Fast Draw wax bullets. And that'll be a fairly short video. I only shoot 1 cylinder of them at a steel target. And just to see it make the little pew, pew with the shotgun primers is what those use, is 209 shotgun primers. So that'll come out this Monday. Awesome. The following week, if I remember right, is a 357 Magnum. I did the unboxing video of that this past week, and I'll do like the range review on it. It's all filmed. I think that's coming out the next week. And then after that, as of right now, unless I can film something else that I want to, I'll have the Walker versus 357 Magnum. That's all filmed and ready. So that'll be coming out too. I meant to get filmed my full review of the Remington carbine the other day, but the area I was shooting, by that point in the day, it got to be too many people. It was too loud, and it would have been bad quality in the video to have all that other gunfire going on. There was some kids out there. They had an AK and an AR and all that. They didn't bring a target. They were just rapid firing at a dirt hill. and I just kept shaking my head and saying, kids. So it was real hard to film as many videos as I wanted to that day. But those are the next 3 that are done in the can, so to speak, and will be coming out stacked here in the next couple weeks.
Snapper.
The video that I was supposed to have out last 2 weeks ago, the video on comparing Colt's early manufacturing to Colt's later manufacturing, about to 1900, and its fluctuation between the Civil War and whatnot. I just have a lot of my guns taken apart and showing the quality of them on the inside, and I'm adding the Remington to it to drastically show that the Remington was not a very well-made gun back then. It's good design. It just they weren't very good at making them during the Civil War.
Yeah. So Billy Yank and Johnny Reb, when's the next one coming out, Dick?
So there's going to be one coming out at noon every day for the next 7 days, I think.
That's cool.
Days.
Nice.
And there's going to be some book reviews mixed in there as well. I think I got 4 or 5 of those already scheduled and uploaded. But the Billy Yank ones, I got up to episode 10 filmed. So I was going to do 2 more, and
nice.
We'll see where it goes.
Those are cool. Those are awesome. If you guys haven't checked them out, go check out Duke Fraser Production Shorts. The ongoing saga of Johnny Reb and Billy Yank. They've taken care of the missing coffee. They've replaced the gemmed up Remingtons. And let's see, they have found the stolen corned beef. So we will see what they get into next time.
But if that really starts to become something serious, I'm going to have to get me a Confederate shell jacket, and I'm going to have to get me an actual Union kepi. This one that I'm wearing is a cheap one that I bought in a store that never really fits. So that's why it's all kind of scrunched up on my head, because it doesn't fit.
Yeah. Gray Pilgrim said Sunday I'm doing a video on a new flintlock. Cool.
Nice.
Cool. All right, so on 11 Bang Bang, as most of you guys know, we spent the last couple of weeks getting things around to move our range out from under the high lines. We got a big summer planned coming up, running all 3 of our series, the Colt History Series, the Smith & Wesson History Series, and the brand new History of the Trapdoor Series. We now have 6 of the trapdoors of the 9 that we need in. So, but we decided to move all of our range and everything. So videos have been lacking here lately. And tomorrow's going to be no different. We don't have a range set up, so I went out and I shot the 1884 trapdoor just to see if I could test some loads through it. Be a real short video. Hopefully tomorrow, if everything works out, we get a chance to get out there and really work on the range and really have some high quality I know Ethan's gung-ho. He's been gone doing a lot of Army stuff here lately, but he's been really gung-ho. He has 2 flintlock builds on the way in the mail. He's got a bunch of them that he hasn't done. New sets of clothes. Planning on being a big summer, hopefully. So hopefully we get that kicked off here in about 2 weeks. But until then, we got just some little kind of short, fun videos coming out. And tomorrow will be the 1884 trapdoor.
Cool.
By land and by sea, I'll tell you right now, the only one I still need is that elusive 1865 and 58 rimfire. I got my eye on one, but I can't afford it yet. And I need a muzzle loader, and that's really it. Okay, so guys, I think that's everything we got. As always, trust in God and keep your powder dry. Bye.
See you, everybody.